I remember the morning we left Jerusalem. The Passover crowds were thinning, the great city releasing thousands of pilgrims back to their homes and villages across Galilee, Judea, and beyond. The roads were crowded with families, with laughter and song, with the lingering joy of the feast. My husband Joseph walked ahead, speaking with some of the men, and I moved among the women and children, my heart still full from the week of worship and remembrance. It was a good Passover, one of the best I could remember. I did not worry about Jesus at first. He was 12 years old, not yet a man by our reckoning, but no longer a small child to be kept always within arm's reach. He had cousins in the caravan, neighbors from Nazareth, familiar faces from every stage of life. I assumed he was with Joseph when I did not see him among the women. Joseph assumed he was with me. It was only when we stopped to make camp for the night, when the fires were lit and the families gathered together, that the truth became clear. Jesus was not with us. I cannot describe what happens to a mother's heart in that moment. It is not a slow realization. It is sudden and total, like cold water poured over everything warm. I moved through the camp quickly at first, then faster, calling his name, stopping at every family group. Have you seen Jesus? Joseph's son from Nazareth? Have you seen our boy? Every shake of the head sent the fear deeper. Joseph found me, and I saw in his face that he had not seen Jesus either. We looked at each other across the firelight, and without a word, we both understood. We had to go back to Jerusalem. 20 miles behind us, the great city still glowed against the night sky. We would leave before dawn.
We walked back in near silence. What is there to say when your child is missing? Every thought was a prayer. Every step felt urgent, yet somehow insufficient. I was moving as fast as I could, and yet Jerusalem seemed impossibly far. I rehearsed every terrible possibility. Had he fallen? Had he been taken? Had something happened in the crowds near the temple? Jerusalem during Passover was full of thousands of pilgrims, Roman soldiers, merchants, and strangers from every nation under heaven. The city was no place for a boy alone. We entered Jerusalem as the sun was rising and began to search. The marketplace district first. We asked every vendor, every water carrier, every face we recognized from the feast. No one had seen him. We searched near the place we had stayed, near the synagogue where we had worshipped, along the streets we had walked together. Nothing. The hours passed like stones dropped into still water, slowly, heavily. The second day was harder. I will not pretend otherwise. By then, my prayers had taken on a desperate urgency that I am not ashamed to confess. I had been told before his birth that he was no ordinary child. The angel's words, Elizabeth's greeting, the shepherd's report, Simeon's prophecy in this very temple, all of it returned to me as I walked. And yet knowledge of the extraordinary does not protect a mother's heart from fear for the ordinary. He was still my son. He was still 12 years old. And he was still lost.
On the third day, Joseph suggested we try the temple courts. I do not know why we had not thought of it sooner. Perhaps because it seemed too obvious, or perhaps because we had been looking in all the wrong places, looking for a lost child rather than looking for who Jesus actually was. We climbed the steps and passed through the great gates into the court of the Gentiles, then through into the inner courts, following the sound of voices. And there, seated among a group of teachers, the learned rabbis and scribes who made the temple their lifetime of study, was our son. He was not hiding. He was not frightened. He was not even aware, it seemed, that anything was unusual about his situation. He sat among those gray-bearded scholars like he belonged there, listening with absolute attention, then asking questions that made the men pause and stroke their beards before answering. I watched for a moment before he noticed us, and in that moment I saw something that I had not been prepared to see. They were listening to him just as intently as he was listening to them, not patronizing a precocious child, genuinely engaged, genuinely, if I am honest, a little astonished. When his eyes found mine, there was no alarm in his face,
No guilt, no rush of relief at being found, just a quiet recognition. And then he waited, as if he knew what was coming and had already considered how to respond. I crossed the distance between us quickly. Whole 3 days of fear and prayer and sleepless searching came out in my voice. "Child," I said, and the word caught in my throat. "Why have you treated us so? Behold, your father and I have been searching for you in great distress." And he said to me, "Why were you looking for me? Did you not know that I must be in my father's house?"
I heard the words. I repeated them to myself. I turned them over slowly, the way you turn over a stone to see what is beneath. My father's house. He was in his father's house. He was not lost. He was exactly where he belonged, attending to the business of the one whose son he truly was. The father he was talking about was not Joseph. Joseph and I did not understand. That is what Luke would later write, and I am grateful for his honesty, because it is true. We had witnessed so much: the angel, the shepherds, Simeon and Anna, the Magi, and yet the fullness of what it meant that Jesus was the Son of God still exceeded our grasp. We loved him as our son. We had raised him, taught him, worked beside him, watched him grow. But there were depths in him that we had not yet begun to sound. He came home with us, willingly, obediently. He did not argue or resist. He returned to Nazareth and was submissive to us, and he grew in wisdom and stature and in favor with God and man. He was the Son of God, and he washed his face in the morning and helped carry water and learned the work of Joseph's hands. And you could not tell by looking at him that the teachers of Israel had sat with their mouths slightly open, astonished at his understanding. But I treasured these things in my heart. Every strange and holy moment, I kept them there, carefully, the way you keep something precious and fragile. I did not always understand what I was keeping, but I knew it mattered. I knew that this boy, this son of mine, was not simply mine. Years later, standing at the foot of a cross outside Jerusalem, I would remember the temple. I would remember his 12-year-old eyes looking at me without fear, telling me plainly that his first allegiance was to his father. And I would understand, at last and at terrible cost, what he had been saying all along. He had always been about his father's business. From the beginning, he had been on a mission I could not fully see or share. I could only follow as best I could, love as much as I was able, and trust the God who had sent this child to me in the first place. If you are hearing this today, I want you to know something. The boy in the temple did not stop being about his father's business when he grew up. He is still, right now, engaged in his father's work. The question he asked me in that temple, "Did you not know?" he may be asking you as well. Do you know where he is? Do you know what he is doing? Have you considered that his priorities may differ from your plans? That his father's business may call you somewhere you did not expect to go? I searched for him for 3 days. I looked in all the logical places and could not find him. He was in his father's house the whole time. He still is.